This is not a test. You are listening to Universal Connection Radio, where everyone is on the same frequency. Are now on air. Well, folks, welcome to Universal Connection Radio. Today we have one of our own members of our group, and I've been watching his videos for quite a while, and I'm sure you have. This is our friend Stephen Dean, and Stephen is going to speak with us about his personal life and A Course in Miracles. You may know it as ACIM. And Stephen has also written a book which is entitled Truth Connections, An Understanding of A Course in Miracles, which I think is great because a lot of people can get lost in the midst of it all. Hi, Stephen. How are you today?
Hello there, Roxanne. I'm very pleased. I really am.
I'm delighted to have you here.
Yeah, and on such a lovely day as well.
Yeah.
Anyway, Course of Miracles. Now, ever since I was a young man, I've always been interested. I wanted to know the truth. I've always questioned. Mm-hmm. You know, I've always felt like we're just here. Yeah, we're here, but
yeah.
You know, why
exactly.
are we here? You know, what is this? It wasn't uppermost on my mind all the time, but I always dwelt on it. I devised some theory, like we were saying, to do with, obviously devised it as I pondered on this for some time from ideas I got from reading philosophies of other people, like Kant, Immanuel Kant. And eventually I realised that we were on some kind of a frequency, and that possibly ghosts and whatever they were on another one, like a television set. You know, you turn the knob, all a frequency, something else appears. So what couldn't it be? If a frequency altered in here somewhere, we would appear somewhere else. You know, anyway, that's the sort of thing that I thought about. Mm-hmm. And I went on like that for some time, going along those lines, trying to ponder on philosophies and other views of life. And why I got involved in the conspiracy theories, because I started, when my wife died, my first wife died in 2005, God rest her. And it was from then on that I decided, well, I really want to do know now, because I wanted to know that she was okay. Yeah. Although on the third night after her death, she came back to me, and she surrounded me in a huge cloud. I didn't start, you know, she didn't sort of walk in the room or anything like that. I was sort of sitting there, sort of thinking about her, and suddenly I became enveloped in a cloud of love. Now, up until that point, I never thought of love as a tangible thing. It's something. Love is a something. It's not something you can pick up and carry around. But while I was enveloped in this mist, well, this invisible mist, I could feel it.
Right.
I could feel it. It was like a kind of a very, very soft cotton wool even. I mean, that sounds a bit weird, but it was sort of, the air was thick somehow.
Yeah.
And then on, I knew that she was around, but so where was she? Mm-hmm. You know, so I started to go along these lines. But like I say, I got distracted by conspiracy theories because I thought that the truth lies somehow in the material world, and I could track it down somehow. Right. But when I used to look at David Icke's stuff and people like him, Alex Jones and all that, and looked at what they talk about, and I got involved in it and wrapped up in it, but then I realised it was making me very upset and angry about something I personally couldn't do anything about. Right. And then I began to reason, well, wait a minute. If God is all perfect, you know, what's all this about? There's something terribly wrong. Anyway, I ended up, when my wife died, after some thought, I decided to sell the house, which was ours. Mm-hmm. Did a deal with my children. I sold the house and went travelling, and that was what I meant to do. Mm-hmm. I ended up in Australia, and I did some woofing, which is unpaid work, you know, like working on farms for barter. You don't get paid any money, but you work for food, and it's a lot of fun. You make a lot of friends. And she talked me into joining her holistic counselling college in Western Australia, which I did, and I was a year there. And I learned a lot about holistic counselling, which is actually more like a treatment of the soul rather than treatment of the manifest body. You know, it's really interesting stuff. But I met a lot of interesting people while I was there. You know, like always on these courses, there's always many more women than there are men for some reason. But it's balancing out now.
Yes, it is
Anyway,
balancing, isn't it?
it's starting to balance out.
Yeah.
When I first got into spiritual, like started going along my spiritual path, like right at the beginning of it, I worked at a spiritual retreat in New Zealand for 3 months, and all the groups that came and all the other people were mainly all women. You know, it was like spirituality appeared to be a woman thing.
Yeah.
You know, for someone who hadn't been into it before, like walking into this world and meeting who inhabited it, it was mostly all women. But that's changing. It is changing. The balance is becoming, the men are becoming more spiritual.
It's true.
You know, well, I can only speak my own experience really, but I'm meeting more spiritual people. Perhaps it might be because I'm projecting it out of myself, and thus it's becoming more spiritual people around me.
Yeah, you
Because
become
that's what-
more aware of more men involved and
Well,
whatnot.
I'm more aware that the men I speak, the men I meet, along with the women I meet, are much more spiritually inclined.
Yes,
Much more than 3 or 4 years ago.
yes,
Something's happening. Something very, very definitely is happening. It's not something a maybe, it's a definite.
I
And that's
agree.
what's beautiful about it all. Anyway,
Yes.
when I was at Sophia College, I met a woman there called Claire Fisher, and she introduced me to A Course in Miracles. And I was absolutely amazed. She said, more or less, she said, I thought you might like to have a look at this. And she lent me the book, and I opened it, and I don't know what happened. But as I started to read it, I just knew it was true. There was no like, oh, I think that sounds good, that sounds reasonable. But for the first time in my entire life, I knew, not thought, I knew that I was reading what is true. And no matter how, when I'm looking through, no matter where I looked at it, I thought, this is true. And from that moment on, I borrowed Claire's book until my book from Amazon arrived.
yes,
Been reading it ever since. I decided I did the text. That took me about 18 months, and then I started on the lessons.
Mm-hmm.
Now, there's in the text somewhere about 2 or 3 months into it, it says something like, you must have recognised now that life around you is starting to change. You're not meeting as many angry people, you're not, and I realised, yeah, it was only since he pointed it out, you know what I mean? Because he realises that it's difficult for you to gauge anything against here. You know, am I improving? Am I getting better?
mm-hmm.
You know, like they say, like an enlightened man rarely knows that he is enlightened. It's only others who know he's enlightened.
Yes,
You know?
yes,
But people ask me if I'm enlightened, but I can't say yes, I am, because I don't feel intrinsically different as I did before, except I'm much more lighter of heart.
and
And I'm
happier.
happier.
Yes,
I don't let anything bother me. Well, there is nothing to bother me.
No, there isn't.
There
It's
isn't
true.
anything. It's realising there isn't anything that can bother me unless I let it bother me. And it's getting that control of your mind. Because really, Akim is a mind training course. Yeah, we are mind, if you like. I mean,
as
this is
humans, as humans, we are mind.
we are mind as humans.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's like the body is a vehicle.
Yeah,
It's like it can be, as I've made a video about this, we could be compared to cars. Because, I mean, we drive around like it's like the car is actually in charge, but it's not. We're the people, it's not, the cars drive around crashing into each other, parking in odd places, causing all kind of mayhem.
right.
But if the car would realise, wait a minute, I'm just a car. The real me is sitting behind the wheel waiting to take charge if I would let it.
Yes,
And it's really just the same sort of thing as the vehicle, which we are. And the mind is, the brain is only the computer that works, that controls the whole thing. And like in modern cars now, we've got about 11 computers dotted around them, haven't they? They actually work the car.
that's right.
This is really a super advanced biological machine. And the astonishing thing of all, it wasn't even designed. This is separation in the mind of a perfect mind. You know, if you're perfect, you're oneness, with oneness, when you think about it, oneness is all inclusive. It's everything. Well, it's all. That's what is no word for it, because when you're the only, like God, that whole thing, God has no name. And that's, when that comes creeping around like on the internet, like when I was into the conspiracy theories, I was also looking at the religious sides of this, like, and they used to, every now and again you get something, say something like, God has no name, or the name that shall not be spoken.
Spoken, right.
Something very sinister, and God is something creepy or hiding away from you.
Yes.
When in fact, the only reason he hasn't got any name is because he's the only thing there is. what else is there to address it? Nothing's going to go, hello, God, because God is all there is.
Yes.
So he doesn't need a name. And because he is one, there's nothing named within him.
Yes.
And it's as simple as that. There's nothing sinister whatsoever. But the nature of this world, its negative aspects, is capable of lending that air to things that are total innocence.
Isn't it so true?
Yeah, and it gives you an example of what this shadow that's cast over the world. Like I made another video called The Snake in the Shed. Now, I got the idea from Dennis Waite in his marvellous book of One. And actually it wasn't his idea, it's an old Indian tale, but that's where I got it from, where the guy goes to his garden looking for a spade or whatever, and he opens the door in the dusk. He goes there in the dusk and he opens it and he looks, and there's a huge snake on the floor, slams the door and he runs off, gets his neighbours. They've got to get rid of this snake. They get their torches and they get their clubs and they go in there and they go to the shed and they're going to get this snake. Open the door, cast in the torchlight, and it's a big coil of rope. Right, now, they're like, oh, what a relief. Thank God for that. It was just, all this time we were afraid and what we weren't going to do, and all the time it was just a big coil of rope. Well, the entire fears, the whole world, well, what we, as a populace, the whole of the world have, is as that snake. Really, the world is that big coil of rope, and what we see is the snake. Yes. And we react to it as if we're seeing this snake, but really, the snake isn't there. And it's the enlightened ones who know the snake isn't there, while they sit there in perfect calm, while all around them panic. You can see why they're doing that, because they know the snake isn't there.
No, it's a perception. It's just
perception.
Yeah.
And I learned that from Akim, and also but from studying Advaita via that book of One by Dennis Waite. It's the only work on Advaita I've read, but it's identical to A Course in Miracles. It's just an Indian version.
Yeah.
It's as no like A Course in Miracles appears to be. Well, it's very, very wordy, very, very academic, but to me that's done purposely, because if you really want to know, you've got to dig right into this until you get to the very, very simple truth at the bottom. Yes. The truth is we're in an illusion, but he's wise enough to know that if he started off by saying that, people would say, it's a what? No, I'm not having that, no, like that. But if he gets halfway through the book and he's made you think in a certain way, then he goes, it's an illusion. You go, yeah, yes it is. But he's coaxed you in your mind into that way of thinking. He's that clever, as you would expect from Jesus Christ. The entity, the being, well, it's us, but is an extension. Because here we're individuals, but in oneness we're, in oneness anything can happen. We could resume our own shape, but we're extensions of him. We're extensions of oneness, like fingers. My fingers are an extension of my hand, but essentially they're still my hand. Well, it's the same.
Yes.
These are his angels, but essentially they're still him.
Yes.
Yeah, he has to function that way, because that's the way we function. Stuck within this machine of ours, and it's programmed to think all this is real. He has to confront us with things that we think are real. He can't. Invisibility we don't understand, or it's not where we are right now, where it's a whole world of materialism. Invisibility is something we see as either possible or some scary kind of thing, or something science is working on. It's not our world, not of our accepted world. So he has to come into our world in some shape or form. Like Jesus in the Course of Miracles at the beginning, where he explains in so many words why he came here. The plan was put together long before. In fact, it's an interesting part. It's not in the finished work itself, but in the notes, where he says that his coming was the second coming. It wasn't the first, but the first coming is lost in antiquity because it happened so long ago. There's just no record of it. So we think Jesus was the first coming when it wasn't. It was the second. The first coming apparently was when the golden age was here, when everybody knew it was a dream. Because it's lost overnight, because if you don't tell your baby the truth, the baby's going to grow up thinking whatever's around him is real.
It's
right. Really that easy.
It's that easy and simple.
Easy as that, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, but what happened? Men in the golden age, which didn't last very long, lost their way really quickly, because when they began to think this was real, they began to treasure things and value things, and that's where it started going badly wrong. First of all, they thought, well, we'll send some angels in. This is the first attempt. We'll send some angels in and just reason with them and say, look, this is just isn't what you think it is. Like, well, I don't know why, this is just what he briefly touches on. He said, but no, they were so interested, all they wanted was war and gain, and they wouldn't listen to reason, and we had to abandon it and come home. Wait till a bit further along where this plan came up, where I decided I should go down, demonstrate this everlasting life by dying and coming back to life as the final proof. The reason why he was smashed about so much and subjected to such terrible treatment was because it to be certain that he was dead, because people who witnessed this, if they put him inside the tomb and then 3 days later he rises again, if they think he was in a coma or he might have been in some kind of condition where he wasn't actually dead, his demonstration of the afterlife would have been messed up by doubt. Well, they couldn't allow that.
Right.
So unfortunately, he had to be he had to go through all these terrible things with spears and getting whipped and kicked all over the place to show that he was really, really dead. Right?
Yes.
It wasn't a pleasant thing, as he says. I mean, I had to go through this, but it had to be done. But and he was successful, because after he was hung up, after they took him down and put him in his cave, and then he came out and appeared to his disciples. He couldn't appear to everybody, incidentally, because his disciples were on the same frequency as him, so they could see him in the body frequency that he appeared in. He can't come back in his body's gone.
That's right.
You have to get in another channel, I should imagine, and appear there, where he had something only for his disciples have been clued up as to see. He doesn't actually discuss that. He just discusses why he suffered all that sort of. But he says, but it did sow the seeds for this third attempt. Now, this is the plan of the teachers, and this is in the book as well.
Okay. This
is the plan of the teachers. The known world at the time of Jesus, one man could possibly have done it, right? But not in this world now. It's a huge affair where you need lots of Jesuses. You need the idea of the plan of the teachers, what this book should be placed around, as it's been placed around. Mm-hmm. Those that need it, those that it's meant for. It's meant for everybody, but some people it's meant like I understood it. I'm meant to read it. I've devoted my life to it ever since. Mm-hmm. I've met lots of people who've got a copy but can't make head or tail of it. They'll get fed up with it, or then just don't get it, right? Because it's convoluted. But it doesn't mean to say it's not meant for them. It means if a teacher comes along, that's what the teachers are for, to teach them what it is in a way that they can understand it.
Right. And you are a teacher now of ACIM.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, it's because I was, after 5 years, I know some have been studying it for 30 years, but for me, after 5 years, I decided to write a summary one day of what I thought it was, and what it was. And I wrote this summary, and it was half the length of the summary that's actually inaccurate at the beginning.
Okay.
I thought, well, okay, I'll publish this online and see what. And it blew a lot of people away, because it defines everything in just one summary of a few paragraphs.
Right.
And I decided to make some videos. Well, my partner, Victoria, or wife to be, anyway, my partner, she suggested me, because I said to, when I came over here before, where I met Vicky, I said to her, I feel compelled that I must speak. Mm-hmm. But I'm just a man in the street. I mean, where to get the platform I need? And she said, well, why don't you make some videos and stick them on Facebook? Oh yeah, so because I can do that, because I spent 12 years as an actor, and I play in bands and that, and I'm standing on the stage or sort of making videos and things that aren't something that's new to me. So it was actually a good idea, but I wasn't sure what I was actually going to say. But the first 3 videos I set up with a friend, and he had a much better camera than me, and I was only making 1 a week because I could only get him to come round once a week, and they were longer. Mm-hmm. But one day I was walking through the bush with my little camera, and I suddenly got compelled to say something. And I got my camera and just filmed myself, and it lasted about 2 minutes, something like that, and I went back home and downloaded it and watched it, because while I was saying it, I wasn't really aware what I was saying. I knew what I was saying, but because I hadn't planned it, I was just talking,
Yeah.
listening to a record and having to listen to it again to hear what actually went on in it, because, and I went home and listened to it, I thought, that's really good. I thought, and the next day I did another one, and I realised that I didn't have to, if all I had to do was think about maybe what subjects I wanted to talk about, and the rest just flowed out. I was so familiar with the text and the lessons and the teacher's manual back in, that whatever it is that causes the flow just picks it all out in my brain, pieces it together, and it all comes out in a way that most people can understand.
Beautiful.
I don't rehearse anything, I don't script anything. In fact, occasionally, and I can see it on some of my videos, so I don't think other people can, is I start to think about what I'm saying. I'm just talking, and I think about what I'm saying. As soon as I do that, it's like it gums up, like the flow's interrupted.
You start to actually listen to yourself.
Yeah, if I allow myself to listen to myself or think about, I can hear myself, and I know what I'm talking about. But if I start to consider as I talk, the whole thing gums up, and I trip over my words.
Amazing.
And I have to stop it and let it just go.
So what would you consider this? The cosmic knowledge is just flowing through you, and you're the...
Well, it's something like that, because in Akim itself it says you will teach and you'll learn from your teachings. The more you teach, the more you'll learn.
And that's so true,
and that must make sense, because whoever I'm saying that, then, but I've learnt from reading the course what I said to be true, but to piece it all together and for it to come out like that in such a smooth flow, I don't know, it's because of acting abilities I learned while I was on the stage, so to speak. but it's so, and I can do it. Well, I've made 89 of them now, right? Wow. And not one of them. And yeah, and I show them I used to put a different one every day, but I realised one day wasn't enough for people all to see them. You need 2 days for people to have a good look.
Yes.
So I'd now post one every other day. But I've got 89 and ongoing, so they'll only be repeated once every 6 to 9 months or something like that. Anyway, so I've got so many.
Do you have what's the name of your YouTube channel?
The Sneddering Yunk.
Sneddering Yunk.
The Sneddering Yunk. That comes from what it was. Back in the days when I used to follow conspiracy theories, I adopted a kind of anonymity, and I called myself the Sneddering Yunk, which is the word that just come out of my head. It's the and Sneddering, SNEDDERING, the Sneddering Yunk. But if you put in Stephen Dean,
it should come up. Yeah.
You forget me anyway.
All right, good.
So all the videos are on there. There's some aspects of it. They deeply affect me sometimes. Sometimes I look at them, and especially ones I haven't looked at for a while. And I always have an expectancy sometimes that I'm going to slip up somewhere, but I haven't done, because the videos like it's going to, but it all comes out.
Your videos are amazing, and the parables and the metaphors, and I listen and I watch, and I'm like, wow, I got that. I really got that, Stephen.
I'm so pleased about that, because a lot of people tell me they can understand what I'm saying. I make it clear. Some people still can't get it, but to me it's all important to make it as clear as possible. I mean, something they can get their heads around. You see, the trouble with the truth has always been known.
Yes.
It's always been known.
Yes.
But I think when it was originally like the Eastern sects, if that's the right word. The Eastern people who knew these secrets, they knew they had to be hidden. And the reason why they were tucked away up mountains in Tibet and just miles away from anywhere was because there's factors on the earth who didn't want this truth to be known, and realised if this truth was wiped off it completely, the people were lost forever in a kind of hell.
Yeah.
And to a certain extent, that is what's happened. The people who knew it was a dream, because if you get born into this, how can you know it's anything else? It's so real, isn't it? You're not offered any
It's hard to tell somebody this is not real. It's hard to tell somebody this is not real.
You have to make them consider the possibility that it might be not real.
Yes, and I often go with, okay, everything is vibrating. Just think about that. So that means that it's gathered into this frequency, which is your body, which is this table. And it's no doubt it is hard to understand and to just take and say, yeah, that's true.
Oh, it's very difficult.
Yes.
But if you can even consider it, though, because most people, and especially 20 years ago, it would have been totally out of question. If you even suggested it was a dream, they would have slammed the spiritual door straight in their own faces, because they wouldn't. And if they're not even prepared to consider that, they're not going to get anywhere.
Right.
But that's changed now. That's what I'm saying. I'm meeting blokes. I'm a blokey bloke, I talk to blokes about bloke things, like, and anything like that is usually was considered airy fairy or pansy or something stupid,
right.
But now they're not.
No, they're not.
They're starting to wonder.
Of course they are. Because it's blatant now. I mean, people just look around and everybody's talking about it. Everybody's looking and observing. That's what it is. We're beginning to observe on things that we never observed on before. As a lifestyle.
Yeah. It's absolutely, we're beginning to understand the true nature of happiness. Yes. We've been told for so long happiness is in objects and money and possessing things, when it isn't.
No, it's not.
People are beginning to understand that you can be happy. I mean, all right, people in abject poverty aren't, they don't have much reason to be happy. Well, I was out in Rwanda. I was out in Rwanda for 5 months on a project out there. And there's some poverty out in Africa you wouldn't believe. You wouldn't believe just how poor those people are. Yet they're happy. They don't know any better.
They are happy. They are, because they don't have the opposite to compare.
They don't. Yeah, that's just true. They don't have they don't know the opposite. They're just stuck in this poor world. I mean, like us as the Mzungu, as they call the white people, like in Rwanda anyway. Like, they just see us as an opposite. But they're not. They don't. There's no hate or anything like that. It's just like they just keep themselves apart. Yeah. But anyway, back from Africa.
We can keep talking.
I do tend to meander around a lot when I talk.
I do too. It's absolutely fine, Steve.
Digression.
It's all good. It's all good.
Yeah. Well, going back to what you said earlier about seeing things and are they a dream, there's one lesson in the course where he says, consider the table in front of you. Mm-hmm. Well, no, and the cup that's on the table, you know that you can pick the cup up. You know what it will feel like when you touch it. You know that it will hold so much. You know, like if you drop it, it will break. But you know everything about it. It is a cup. But if you take away all that prior knowledge, what is it then? If you can understand what it is then you'll be able to understand what the whole world is then. You can gain knowledge through that one understanding via a teacup. Mm-hmm. If you can do that, I mean, that one's to consider. I love that one. I mean,
it is. Imagination, the mind, the creation.
It is. I mean, really, the cup itself is just a piece of mud, isn't it? I mean, like, it's the shape. It was what it holds.
Yeah, exactly.
It's just a piece of mud. But it's a piece of mud made into a cup that holds something, but really it's just a space that you drop something in. It's all connecting things up again to try to get back to oneness. This goes back to the video I made about time and space. Hey, when I realised what time was, that really was an aha moment, that one.
Yeah. Because
time is something that most people would never consider an explanation for. We just don't know what time is, and that's it.
Right. Right.
We just can't know. And when you look on the internet for debates about what time is, you've got really highly respected establishments trying to figure out what time is, because they refuse to go up the spiritual road. They try to do it through kind of scientific means.
Right.
They don't like this spiritual bit because there's got a God in it. They don't want that. They want to figure it out through other means.
Right.
But
they still can't. They can't.
No, they can't. They keep coming up against this wall. Well, like that. The one. What's the one? The two proton experiment. That one where they figured out that the protons must be thinking.
Yes.
I mean, they can't get further than that. They can't get further. They come up against a thinking mind. That really is something else, that.
And so many scientists now are turning to, well, there is no explanation for this. There has to be something larger than what we believe or what we know. And there is. And if they could just accept that and say, yes, there is a God and we are part of that God and all of this is God.
Yeah, they just accept that, but it is difficult to get your head around it. That's why it takes years for this to sink in.
I know.
Basically, we're the same as someone in a nighttime dream. You know, and they're walking about doing what they like, same as we do what I like here, but in the dreams we have no connection with them in the sense that we can tell them what to do. They just walk around in our minds doing exactly what they like.
Yeah.
Free will.
Yeah.
Same as we walk around on the earth doing exactly what they're like with our free will. And the free will we've got is between spirituality or this material world. And that's the old devil thing, but it's the materialism and the negativity, what they call the devil, and the fight against it, you know.
I often think about all of that is we have all these aspects of our minds. You know, we have the doubter, we have the Judas, we have like the 12 disciples.
Yeah.
And I often think, you know, that's just an area of my thinking. And if I'm going to go into that darkness, it's just an area of my thinking. There is no devil as such.
No, there's no devil or anything like that.
No,
The devil. It's like I made a video about this with this devil business. Like it's I got this from a Disappearance of the Universe. I got it from this idea from a discussion in there, where they talk about what they call it, Lourdes. That's it, Lourdes.
The miracles.
Yeah, the miracle at Lourdes.
Yeah.
Now, they said Virgin Mary. Now, Virgin Mary and the people all went to Lourdes, and they saw it originated when they saw Virgin Mary hanging in the sky.
Right.
And it happened again at Fatima, and it happened again somewhere else in Spain. Anyway, the Virgin Mary appears floating in the air, right? And they go into ecstasy and watch her. Now, in that Disappearance of the Universe, they say if you notice all the depictions or drawings of what that apparition looked like, show her to have a Western face, like a very beautiful film style, like Western face.
Right.
Now, in the Roman Catholic Church, there's lots of icons all over the place of Mary, but she's got a Hollywood-like Western face, right?
Yes.
And on Christmas cards, she's got this beautiful Western face. But Mary was from the Middle East.
Yes.
If it really was Mary hanging up there, why hasn't she got a Middle Eastern face?
The same with, yeah.
Would an icon be put there in place? It explains that because these people are so devout, they want to see Mary. If one says, I thought I saw Mary, they'll all concentrate, and this thought will cause them all to project outwards an image that they all can see.
A manifestation.
The ones that, not all people could see them, just the devout. Because they're the ones who are strong enough to project it strong enough to cause it to appear in front of them. Where they now went into their ecstasy, which is brilliant, you know.
It is.
She wasn't really there, they've just projected her out. It shows how strong their minds are.
Absolutely.
What happens is with these devil worshippers, I mean, if you go and sit in a circle, whatever it is they do, and draw this pentacle on the floor or whatever and throw stuff around anyway, and they sit there, oh, hail Satan or whatever, something will turn up if you really, really, really want to see him.
Of course, absolutely.
And he'll have horns, and he'll have goat's legs, and he'll have a
whatever you expect him to have.
Like Mary with her Western face,
Yeah.
He'll have horns, he'll have a red skin, and he'll have a goat's head, just like the stereotype Diesel. They make him themselves, and they worship their own hatred, and imagine all these horrible things he gets them to do, and they carry them out, and in the name of this, it's so chaotic. It's the madness of the world, the nightmare of the world. You see, this illusional being they're worshipping that rewards them with illusional stuff.
That's right.
It's nothing, is it? It's nothing here is worth having.
Imagination.
In the real world,
Yeah.
they've really, really been seriously deceived. And what do you expect from one they call the Great Deceiver?
Yeah.
You know,
Exactly.
just friends. They're foolish enough to think he is their friend.
Yeah.
Anyway, that's another.
That's another subject. Maybe another time we'll go into that one.
I want to go over there anyway.
Yeah.
That goes into the negative world, and it's that and it isn't a real world. You know,
No.
we all have to interact with the world because we live here. But to know that it's not what we think it is, it's not the be all and end all. We've got a beautiful place to return to when we eventually get there.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
I mean, it's.
But this is so beautiful too. I mean, it's all a matter of how you're living your life, what you're thinking about.
Well, yeah, it it is. When my wife died, I lived in the industrial Midlands of England.
Okay.
It's a nice place, but it's grey and rainy in the Midlands of England, you know, and with the politics there, it's run the place down, the place all closing down everywhere, and it became a pretty grim place to live. That was one of the reasons I decided to go travelling when I just sold my house, said bye-bye, and went. I ended up with a course, I started to follow the course in my travels, and I ended up living on a beautiful farm in the middle of nowhere with no one to worry me, with just my dogs to walk and read my book in the bush every day, working on a... I ended up in an idyllic situation. Every person I knew that used to get angry, all the angry people I ever knew either faded away out of my life or turned into different types of people. Yeah. Honestly, they seem to lose their anger. Or was it me just not projecting my own anger onto them anymore? But something happened.
Something happened.
It happened before my eyes. Yeah. And it happened in the way Akim said it would happen. Because we're so used to thinking nothing happens magically, you've got to the best way to assess if you've taken on board the Akim training is to stop every few months and have a reassessment and think back, how was I 3 months ago?
Right.
How you are 3 months ago, like, well, you'll see how much you progressed. How I thought 3 months ago is vastly different to how I think now. Like, one of the things that took me a while to get over was, Atkins, you've got to forget your past because your past isn't real. Stop, forgive yourself and stop blaming yourself for that stuff. It's all gone. It never was real. Then it said, and with everybody else.
Yeah.
And with everybody else? Yeah, and with everybody else. Not just you. You've got to... On that one, I realised... But that's the one where you have to go through your memories and drag out any little prejudices or hate you might have had against somebody. And you've got to pull them all out of the closet.
Yeah.
Because they tend to hide in the cupboard if you don't let them. You know what I mean? You can tell someone as they creep out. But you have to really give yourself a thorough mental washout up there, you know.
It's so important. So important. And it's a matter of actually just... Once you do that washout and that good cleansing, it's a matter of keeping control of your thinking and your speaking and what you're creating for yourself and others that you're close to. And in the long run, everybody else, because it's all vibrations.
It is everybody else. And I made a video about that as well. It was called Awakening and Awakening en masse, because the enormity of what the task is, well, the teaching that I'm working alongside with, it's just immense. Because if I am to believe, as I do, that my life around me is what I project out of me, as I awaken more and more, because my awakening hasn't been a sudden one like a lot of people experience. Mine has been slow. Yeah. But I see, but it's been happening around me, and so all the people around me I love everybody around me, and I've met nobody I want to have argument, nobody, everything just goes right, and if it doesn't go right, it's because it's meant to go that way for some future right.
Yes, yes.
And my whole life's like that now, and if that's the case, then if my whole life's become this is my dream, well, isn't everything around me my dream? If I eventually meet up with other people who are like me and their dream latches onto my bit of the dream, and all the dreams meet up like jigsaw puzzle, and there'll be none of this negativity left.
That's right.
It'll take a while, but it's happening.
It's happening already.
Yeah. It seems like too enormous a thing to happen, but it is happening, and it's happening at an incredibly fast pace.
Yes, it is. It's accelerated unbelievably in the last, I would say, 7 years.
Well, look how long we've waited. Look how long we've waited.
That's very true.
And it's like something has just accelerated, and I think we're accelerating towards the end of the dream. I mean, accelerate, it's going to be a little while yet, but we as awakening up, just as in the morning, like, you know, you don't wake up straight away, do you? Blink for a bit first and gather your thoughts and wonder where you are. What was all that?
Yeah.
Well, this is sort of like the same. If you're awakening from a very, very deep sleep, like we've been in, it isn't going to happen overnight. It'll be a process as we gradually awake and begin to see that what around us is actually just pure love.
Yes.
Because really, our range of vision no matter what the three-dimensional projections around us are, I mean, like this behind me, that's my range of vision, like as far as I can see through the window out there and beyond that. But that's like, it's a three-dimensional cinema.
Yeah.
Really. There's nothing behind that, really, except what I think's behind it. I mean, that house there, this gable wall of this house here, I mean, what's beyond that, I presume, is a house, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
But only because I presume it is.
Exactly.
If I walk around the front, oh yeah, there is an house. But really, that's only because I'm moving around in the holographic cinema.
That's right.
There's nothing behind any of it about what I project when I get there.
That's it.
It's like a miner's lamp on my head.
Whatever the light shines on.
Yeah, whatever the light shines
Yeah.
on, like a lamp on, like a third, like this lamp on my head, there will be an image there wherever I look. But really, there's nothing there. Behind that is just pure love.
Yes.
Behind that wall, all around us, and it's not depend if you're in a cupboard, it's a little wall, but
That's
behind it is nothing but pure love.
It's all love. And if
It's
people
all
can just tune into that, their lives would change.
Yeah. And it
Absolutely.
ain't far away, it's just beyond you, it's just behind your vision.
Yeah.
Even the sky, it's just a blue screen. We think, oh, it's miles and billions of miles away. Don't matter. It's only a projection you think it's all these miles
Exactly.
away. It's just a screen. A holographic screen.
And people say, oh, but this is happening to me and that is happening to me. And I often say, yes, things happen, but it's how you respond to what's happening.
Yeah.
You have to think, and you can't just do what you used to do, because your story has to change. It can't stay the same.
That's right.
Nothing stays the same.
Yeah, but people, well, in the society I grew up in, London, it was okay to be positive and negative. You know,
Right.
like people getting out of bed and I come into work and say, in a bad mood, and they say, oh, we got the wrong side of bed today, I look guys in one
Right,
way. But he
right.
makes for a miserable atmosphere, but he's forgiven because it's okay to be negative every now and again. Sorry, I was in a bad mood yesterday. Oh, that's all right. It's okay to be like that now and again. It's acceptable. It isn't really.
No,
but
it
because
isn't.
we think it's okay, there's like a 50-50 positivity, negativity about the whole world.
Yeah.
And that's why we're never truly happy, because this negative side keeps ill balancing it. It won't let us go over there. It
I
keeps
agree.
sort of like blocking it,
Yeah.
But
You're
because we think it's
absolutely right.
normal, because in a world where everything has opposites, of course we're going to think it's normal. But
That's
that's
right.
the trap of the world.
That's
the
right.
Into the world by people who think it's real, who are suffering from all the delusions of it. And of course we're trained to be that way. I mean, thank God for some people, people that are born to question. I mean, and they're getting, there's always been questioners, but in the
Yes.
past, because of the nature of society, they've been tucked away.
They
Like
have.
only a few people knew them or something like that. Never been able to really make their presence felt, except,
It's
But
true. That is
this
true.
new communications is what's brought it about.
Yes. And it's wonderful. People complain about, the internet and all of our leaps into amazing technology. And I think, no, it's how you use it.
Yeah.
It's how you use it. And
Yeah.
I use Universal Connection Radio to bring people together, to share the knowledge, to say, hey, look, if you're feeling a little off or empty, I bet there's somebody that's either been on one of the shows or who's putting up a post or whatever, who can help you with that.
Yeah.
Because it is the pieces of the puzzle, as you said, Steve.
It is, because if there's someone out there who's thought a thought, well, I'd like to know the answer to that, then they turn on the radio, then the answer comes out.
Yeah.
That's how it works.
That's
it's all
right.
pieced together.
It does, and the synchronicity and it all fits in. If you're looking for it, just open your eyes.
Well, that's what I do. I do it every day now.
Same here.
I take, it's good at it.
It's wonderful.
It's finding one,
Yes.
spotting one. Because they're usually small.
Yes.
And the reason why they're small is because the more, I've noticed this now, and now I've sort of like investigated and experimented with it, the more fleeting and passive the thought, the more likely it is to materialise in the shape of the thought.
Yes, I have noticed that also.
Yeah. It's
Yes.
like, you must, it's because it's like the thought hasn't been processed enough to turn it into this big symbolic monument to whatever you was thinking about. It's just this little bit, you might think of it, what is it the other day? I thought about, Oh, here's a good one. I did a video about this. I was in Bali and I remembered I was walking along the street. For some reason, this old song come floating into my head. Pink Pomeranians by Guy Mitchell. Pink Pomeranians. It was a song about, remember in Hollywood, them, the Hollywood ladies used to dye their dogs, Pomeranian dogs, pink, yellow. But anyway, there was a song about that. Anyway, it was an obscure little song. My mother had it on a 45 and I haven't heard it for so many years and I couldn't even think why it had come to mind in Bali. But anyway, the next day I was walking through a park in Bali. And for the first time in many, many years, the guy in front of me had 2 Pomeranian dogs. They weren't pink, but he had 2 Pomeranian dogs. But he stopped at a candy floss, cotton candy machine, and bought 2 great big pink candy flosses. Amazing. I don't know if they for the dogs or what they were for. Amazing. But it's 2 pink Pomeranians. Oh man, that is a really good set. That was a real great. That is perfect. I laughed at that one.
It's funny. Perfect. It is funny because you created it. The pieces came together.
But it makes you realise that everything around it is all created as well.
It's there, yes.
All of it.
It's all there for our taking if we would just...
It's a stage.
It is a stage.
It's a big empty stage.
It's a big game and we need to play it and enjoy it. Instead of sitting saying, oh, well, I'm losing. You're not losing.
If you appear to be losing, it's hard to turn your mind around if you're losing, especially if you've lived a pretty negative life where nothing seems to go right. But that's because you get stuck in a chain reaction thing. It always goes wrong for me. I told you it would go wrong. That's because you start projecting it going wrong. And it always goes wrong because you don't know how to stem it. And once you've got into that whale of it's so difficult to reverse that kind of thinking.
I know.
That's why, like the Course of Miracles that's why it's a mind training course. It's all about reversing your thinking.
Yes.
Knowing this is an illusion rather than thinking this is real.
And it makes your life, your existence, your time on this magnificent planet so beautiful. It makes it happy and joyful and loving. And
this is meant to be a beautiful experience.
Yes, it is.
In the course again, Jesus says it was an error, but he also says it may as well be a learning tool, an experiencing tool. You're not experiencing it as you should be, error or otherwise. Though he doesn't say. He says it's an error. That's the part there where I think he says it's an error because it's nothing compared to what reality's like to his way of thinking. Because he keeps saying, "This is wait till you get home, or you wait what's in store for you. Your actions can't wait for you to get back. We're gonna have a great time." So obviously it's wonderful there, but it's wonderful here too.
It's also the possibility that we weren't supposed to mess it up the way we did.
Look, we weren't. What the negative is? This is where the errors all started occurring.
Yeah.
In oneness has no opposites, so there's no conflict.
That's right.
There's nothing to conflict against.
No.
And there's also no judgment because there's nothing to judge anything against. It's just perfect love. Good and evil, opposites are necessary here because there has to be opposites. I mean, good is allied to God, but here he's got to have an opposite. It's evil, but because it isn't real, the devil, his evil opponent, isn't real. But to us living in the illusion, if you want to contact said being, you can if you like, but we can.
I love it. Oh, Steve, you're great.
But it's not advisable.
Yeah, I wouldn't if I were you.
Bother.
Yeah, really. You just bring more negativity your way.
Oh no, you don't want him anywhere near.
No.
It's because it does. It's like. It's quite evident. The people who seem to keep, I don't really go up that road, but the people who seem to get greedy with all this money, are never satisfied with it, are they? They always want more and more. They never know, that's enough now. I've got 2 billion, that should do. No, I want 4 billion. But it's because they're looking, they're searching. They know it isn't going to do any more good, but they don't know where to search for because they're looking for whatever it is they're looking for in materialism. And it ain't there. But they keep getting more and more and thinking it's going to arrive, but they're totally at the wrong end of the street.
And
they go further and further up it.
Well, you do have a lot of wealthy people who have turned to different beliefs, like Richard Gere with Buddhism. They realize, you know what? I've got all this money and I'm still not happy. What's the problem?
Well, actually, a lot, and getting really done in on drugs. You know what I mean? Like you think you've got all this money, do anything you want, and they end up photograph, they die, and there's photographs of them sitting around in their underwear in a
Yeah.
beat up living room with some pipe.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Think
I
like
know.
whatever they were doing, you know, when you consider what they were in society, what happened to you?
They're not celebrating life, that's for
They're
sure.
not.
No. No,
You know.
definitely not. But Stephen, before we go any further, the book, it's available on Amazon. You have it there?
Here's look. Truth.
Oh,
Pictures. With a little picture
Interesting.
on the back as well.
very nice. Very
Yeah.
nice.
It's got, like I say, I've made 89 videos now. My next one will be 90. It's
Amazing.
It's 77 in here.
Okay.
77 of them.
Wonderful.
The whole idea of that is to make it's not expensive. I did it as cheaply as I could, and it's to go. I just want to get the word out there because I know, as it says in the book, there's different teaching methods for each person. You know, it's like there's a teacher. He says, "I will send to you the teachers that are meant to." The pupils, if you like,
Yes.
that need your tuition. I'll
Okay.
send them your way, and he has.
Yeah.
Has. I mean, I can tell the ones that are and the ones that aren't. You know what I mean? Because if they're interested, they'll talk to me about it. If they're not, they won't. I don't
Of course.
impress anybody because if it's too strange for two. If you're not initiated into it in any shape or form, people just think you're mad. You know. But I don't want people to think. Oh, well, it doesn't matter because it's the old pearls before swine thing, as Jesus said. I'm not saying for an instant people are swine who don't want to know. but
No,
that's-
of course not.
That's what he meant. He
Yeah.
said because this knowledge don't cast
They
it.
don't understand the value of it.
Stand, they'll trample it into the
That's
dust.
what it
they
is.
won't understand.
Yeah.
He doesn't mean that. He doesn't mean that literally. But the point is, like, you know, you won't do yourself any good or your own faith any good if you're telling people who are just going to mock what you're going to say.
That's the truth.
And
That
the-
is the truth.
And the people who need someone like me who teaches the way I do it, this sort of straightforward way of doing it, or the way I do it anyway, will be directed to me. And
Absolutely.
that's what's happened.
Absolutely, I agree. I definitely agree with that. And Stephen, I ask all my guests on UCR, what does universal connection mean to you?
Universal connection,
Yeah.
the term
Yeah, those words, what does it mean?
that the whole universe connects back as one.
Beautiful.
It's everything connects. That's a
Yes.
really nice title, actually. Did you think of that?
I did.
Brilliant. Well done.
Thank
This
you.
is a great title.
Thank you. I feel we're all connected universally. Everything is connected from the trees to the grass to the birds to us. It's all connected. We are one. And there's, what other words? What's larger than universe?
Oneness. Well,
Yeah.
the universe, it will just condense back into one eventually.
Yeah.
The last video I did once where it occurred to me, like, I got a gum nut, a stone and a piece of wood, and I surmised, like, if you get the gum nut and the stone and push them into the same area, they can't, because like everything's got its, like, nothing can get in this book space. This is this book's space. It's the book's its space as long as it's on
Yeah.
Earth. You do it the stone, it's the same. The nut is the same. But if I push them into the same space, if I was able to do that, right, they then become, well, it's half gum nut and half stone, but it's a new object within that one space.
That's right.
So whatever it is now one object. What was two is now one. So then I get a piece of wood and force that into the same space. It's now in the space the gum nut was in, but now it's got three things in it. It was three things, but now it's one thing. Now if I carry on forcing things into that space until I push the whole universe into it, I'm left with a gum nut with the whole universe into it, right? Then if I crush that down to the size of a mustard seed, I've got the mustard seed that Jesus spoke about, where all of earth sprung from.
Yes.
And if that mustard seed and suddenly went boom and everything shot out again, this is what we'd have. Maybe it was a big bang, maybe not. But that's what happened. Because do we ever remember the beginnings of our dreams?
No.
It just happened. It just started up.
That's right. That's the truth. That
That
is
was-
the truth. That's
it was the-
beautiful.
Yeah.
That's
It
beautiful.
started up in the golden age where everything was natural, perfectly balanced, absolutely perfect. And what's happened now to us at this stage is how it's all been knocked out of balance by positive and negative coming into conflict by the very fact that they're opposites. And in oneness, where there are no opposites, that just can't happen. It's just perfect peace.
Absolutely. And that's where we're going.
Yes,
That's where I'm at right now. I don't know about everybody else, but I'm there.
They'll get there. They're coming. They're on their
there.
way.
That's my world, the happy place, the good place. And yeah,
I'm glad to share it with you.
absolutely. And thank you so much for coming on, Stephen. This has been wonderful. We have to do this again.
We will do it.
Yeah.
It's wonderful being on here. I'm so pleased. Really.
Oh, I am too. And your book, I have to pick it up. I also have it in the Emporium, the Universal Connection Radio Network Emporium, where all of, the guests and whatnot who have been on, and those who haven't yet but would like to, they can put their books and, their products and whatnot into the Emporium rather than flooding the group page.
That's good.
Yeah.
Well, thank you very much. That's great.
Yeah, so it's in there. And anybody who's watching this can go there and pick it up.
Well, I hope they enjoy it.
Oh, I'm sure they will. I'm going to get it, Stephen.
If they're looking for truth, it's in there.
Isn't that? But that's what everybody's looking for.
Well, ultimately, that's what they'll find.
Ultimately,
Because truth is all there is.
that
Ultimately.
is the truth is the truth.
The truth is the truth is the truth. Yeah.
It's the truth. We could keep saying that.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's been wonderful. Thank you, Stephen.
Thank you very much.
And I look forward to your next video, and I'm going to pick up your book.
Okay.
Definitely, because I can't say I'm one of those who got lost in the Course in Miracles, but there were certain parts. It was about 2 years ago I read it. I should reread it, I think.
Well,
And
read my book, then reread it again. Because
Yes.
it will tell you what the essence of it is.
yes,
So
I think I'll do that.
It's like reading the Bible after reading the Course. If I read bits of the Bible now, it all makes sense. Whereas before, it was just like the Bible, this unsure of what it meant. Now I
Right.
know what it means. It's been messed around a lot with.
Oh,
but
yeah.
it's like Chinese whispers, successive
Absolutely.
popes. Other people took bits out. Like all references to reincarnation were removed in the 14th century, I think, on a whim of a pope. So
Yes.
his whim, it changed the whole belief for all these Christians. Anyway, but it doesn't matter. The Course of Miracles is here now, and that will do.
Definitely.
Of consequence. All is good.
Thank you, Stephen. You have a
Thank-
wonderful day, and once again, thank you for coming on UCR.
Thank you very much. I'll see ya.
I'll see
Bye.
you soon. Bye.
Bye. Bye.
Universal Connection Radio. Tune into the frequency.